Welcome to Center Stage. My name is Mark Gordon. On this program, we're going to talk with Whitney Sander of Sander Architects. Sander is a recipient of numerous awards and honors and is considered a leader in green architecture. You're kind of like the green architect, aren't you? The go-to guy.
Well, I think there's so many architects out there who are working towards something like being the green architect that I can't say I am. I love the idea that the world is becoming more and more focused on, and actually while we're speaking, they're finishing up in the Eco Summit, I think, in Amsterdam, on trying to get serious about what we're doing to the planet.
Yeah, the Copenhagen.
Copenhagen, right.
Yeah.
I think that the Chinese and the Americans finally came to some sort of agreement about what we're going to do going forward, and it's wonderful, frankly. Here I am launching into politics immediately to have an administration that agrees with us, that follows these precepts.
So when did you get involved with green architecture?
Well,
Is that the way it's green architecture?
I think that's exactly the way I say it. My first involvement with, I was a Peace Corps volunteer, actually. It made me become much more aware in the early 1980s. And I realized, first of all, that it's a very small world, and we're all part of the same world. And things that we do here in this country affect other countries greatly, and so that it's everything is interrelated. But by the same token, the scale of what we do in this country is so much larger and so much more intensive in terms of resources, et cetera, than anything that's done in the country where I was, which was Sierra Leone. Sadly, over the last 15 years, Sierra Leone proceeded to pretty much annihilate itself. There was a civil war that was terrible. But there were 45 volunteers that I entered with in 1981, and we trained there for 6 weeks in a small village up country. The refuse pile, the waste from all of our meals, all of the stuff that we're doing during the day, from that 45 people over 6 weeks was the size of a large trash can here, if that. And I realized that I admired that. There's something about that really is fascinating to me, that you can get by on a lot less. Mm-hmm. And I then started to look for ways to introduce that into my architecture. And I started working with these things called hybrid houses, or more properly, that's our term for it, but the more generic term for it is a light gauge metal building. This is an industry that was started by a guy named Butler, and they're referred to as Butler buildings, back in 1906 or so. And Mr. Butler actually married my great aunt. Had he married my grandmother, we could be having this conversation on my yacht.
Seriously?
Yeah, this is one of the oldest and most efficient and mature industries in the country. It's 100 years old.
The green building is 100 years old?
The light gauge metal building industry. So that if you go into like Downey or Carson, all the warehouses that are there, most of them are either tilt-up concrete, which is a very energy-intensive way to build, or light gauge metal buildings. And these are all steel, and they're computerized from the time that we tell them the size of the building and the spacings of the bays and where we want the windows and where we want the doors. There are probably 6 steps in the manufacturing of these buildings, of which 2 are done by hand. The rest is done by computer. So the margins are extremely low. The price is very inexpensive. It's all recycled steel. It's a magnificent process. It's a really great process. And for almost any construction process besides a TP, you're going to be having byproducts of the construction process that are not great. So you have to be careful of those. The question is just how toxic, how much, what's the duration of making the product, how long living is that product, and can you recycle it? And with steel, you can recycle it. The other thing that's critical is that there's 2 kinds of building with steel. One is heavy gauge, or heavy traditional hot rolled steel, which comes out of Japan these days, or light gauge. And the light gauge steel members that we make are all welded together, and they're simply made. There's two ways of resisting a seismic event, for instance, and one is to be stiffer than that event, and the other is to be a little bit flexible, right? And the first way of building with steel uses a stiffer kind of member, and it's much more intensive and much more difficult. And the light gauge metal building, which is what we use, are completely different. They're much lighter and easier to build. They're bolted together, and they're slightly flexible, and they last more than the heavy gauge stuff anyway. Excuse me.
Well, now tell me about some of the projects. I know you worked on a performing arts school, Idlewild.
Idlewild, right.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Idlewild is a magnificent little community up in the hills between here and Palm Springs. And we're doing their performing arts center. And as a kind of an expression of this different way of building, there was a previous architect who designed the same center. It was slightly larger than the one that we ended up with. And the budget was $20 million. And they used heavy gauge steel. They used standard, a lot of concrete block. And the project was priced independently at $55 million. Right, so almost 3 times budget. So of course you can imagine what the Board of Trustees said, and we ended up getting hired for the project, and our schematic design phase just finished, and at the same place that the previous project was priced, and we came in at $16.5 million. So we beat their budget by $3.5 million, and we could do this for any similar sized building, something that's say 20 or 30,000 square feet, 260 feet long, ceilings up to 60 feet. Any large-scale space we can do for about a third the cost of the competition.
And will it be healthier for the students and healthier for the occupants?
Totally. It is, well, the systems that you use will still be the same systems on either building, but we're very aware of green systems that exist. So we're going to use passive solar hot water heating, and because of this the efficiency of that way of doing things, we'll be able to heat the rest of the campus. And it's funny, I was just using the restroom down the hall here, and I noticed that the windows were thrown open in the bathroom in the middle of winter. Yesterday was the shortest day of the year. And it's typical of college campuses and student campuses. They leave the windows open. So
well, maybe you don't know who's been in there right before you were. So maybe it's. Come on, I saw.
You got a point there.
Come on, I saw that that Jim Carrey film,
right?
Ace Ventura.
Well, the idea or the question is, how does a campus create its own energy? And there are resources are becoming easier and easier to get and use to make them using the sun or using wind power or turbines of various kinds. And so we're up on all that. And so this building will support itself and a large part of the other buildings on campus in terms of heat and hot water and electricity.
And if you want to see a sample of their work,
yep,
and you're in Los Angeles, or if you happen to come by, off of Lincoln, they have a sustainable building.
Yeah, the new building is just south of Venice on Lincoln Boulevard on the east side. It looks like a big orange vehicle. Yeah, we use this stuff that's normally used in greenhouses that's white and translucent, and the light comes through it like a shoji screen. It's so soft. It's really great. The building has no windows. It will very soon, but it's kind of an odd thing right now.
So what was the idea to not put windows in the building?
Well, it's the screen kind of blocks out a view, one. Two, it's Lincoln Boulevard.
Who wants to look at that? Yeah.
So there will be some windows coming in for ventilation, but we just love the quality of light. It's really great stuff. The stuff that we use is it's half the cost of insulated glass, twice the R value or insulating value of that, and it comes in big sheets and you can cut it on the job.
Thanks for tuning in. Just a reminder, you can listen to Center Stage live every Tuesday night on KXLU Los Angeles 88.9 FM. We're also streaming on the internet at kxlu.com. Until next time, this is Mark Gordon, and I'll see you Center Stage.